Hey everyone, what's up? This is Simon from Devtectic and the Ionic Academy. In this video I will show you how to use the SQLite plugin from Cordova with a pre-populated database, so we can make real SQL interactions with our database. So I've already started a blank new app, and I also added to our assets folder one file called dummy-dump-sql. And as you can see inside this file, I just have a few statements that I would like to execute once we start our app, perhaps only the first time. So we create a new table developer and we enter 3 developers into our database with their names, a skill and years of experience. So of course this is just some dummy data. I don't know about the real values here. First of all, we need to create a few things. So we need one provider for our database interactions. So go ahead and run provider database. And then we got a few plugins we need to install. So first of all, we need this plugin, which is the Sqlite Portal. And this plugin will allow us to import this dump right into our database. Otherwise we could only execute one line all the time and it would have to be in a specific format. So this helps us to make this more or less batch import. Then of course we need the Sqlite Storage plugin, and finally we need to install the Ionic native packages for the Sqlite Portal and the Sqlite. When we develop this, we will not be able to test this inside our browser anymore later. We can start now to see if the app is in general working and if we have any problems, but later on we will have to deploy it to a device as we're using Cordova Plugins. So first of all, our database provider was already imported, and what we need as well is the Ionic Storage module for root, because we will not only use the Sqlite database, but we will use it through the Ionic Storage as well. So this is from Ionic Storage. And then we also need to load our local file, and as far as I know we need the HTTP module as well. So add this one as well, add Angular HTTP. Okay, we got those two. We got our database provider, which was already added here. And now we also need to include the 2 Cordova plugins, so Sqlite Portal from Ionic native, there it is. And finally Sqlite from Ionic native Sqlite, and we need to add both of them to our providers array as well. Okay, so now we're ready. The app should still compile, and we will continue with our provider for the database interaction. So all of our interactions will run through this provider, and first of all we need a connection to the database, and this will be an Sqlite object. Of course we need to import a few things here as well. Perhaps we can do it as we go, perhaps okay, perhaps some will be automatically added. So we need the Sqlite object, and then something I added which I call database ready, and this will be a behavior subject. So perhaps you have heard about this or seen it in one of my other videos about dynamic theming. So this behavior subject will help us because our view can subscribe to this. It's more or less an observable once we return it. I can already add this. So get database state, and this will return database ready dot as observable. So perhaps I need a few more imports here. I think this should be really nice if my autocomplete would work a bit better, but I think I'm telling you this in every video. So the behavior subject can be subscribed to, and we can call next on it, and every subscriber will then behavior subject, what's wrong? Oh, okay, and every subscriber will then get notified, and we will use this here because we need to open our database, and if our database it's like this, and if our database is not yet ready, we can't make any commands on it. So otherwise we would run into some race conditions or whatever. Therefore we will use it with this behavior subject. You will see how it works in a second. So we need the Ionic almost, but just Ionic Storage, and inside our constructor we need a few things. So we need the Sqlite Portal, but the variable should be like this, and then we got the storage. And what do we need as well? I'm not completely sure. Let me see. We need the SQLite. I think we already got SQLite, right? Yes. What is this? It's working. And then we also need the platform, because first of all we need to wait for the general platform ready event from Ionic and Cordova, because otherwise we shouldn't make any interactions. So let's go back, and our database ready state is first of all false. So this is also something new. With a behavior subject we can add an initial value and all subscribers will immediately get false back. So we will know that we're not yet ready. So then we go ahead and use the platform ready function, and once our platform is ready we can go ahead and create or open our database, and we use sqlite.create, and this will open or create a SQLite database file. Inside we can specify if we want stuff like name, so let's name it developers DB, and you can also specify different locations. Example would be default. You can check out all those on the GitHub page of the plugin. In general, default should work. So once this is done, we can also go ahead with a then block again, and this time we got an SQLite object. So you see that this is already pretty good for us, because now we can set our database to this DB. And now something a bit more, is this wrong? Yeah, I think it should be just storage like this. So now our database is either created or open, and what we're going to do now is we use the storage besides our other database, and we check for if the database is already filled. And once we got this value, so if the database is already filled, we don't have to insert anything else, and our database is ready, the platform is ready. So this means we can notify our subscribers that they can now use the database. So we call this .databaseReady.next, and now we emit the value true. So all subscribers will know that, okay, yes, now it's ready and we can make our interactions with the SQL database. Otherwise, we would have to fill our database somehow. So this means it's the first startup and we need to import our SQL dump. So to fill our database now, we call our HTTP and call get to get our dummy dump.sql. We need to map this response because otherwise it's like an HTTP response, and we need just the text, which is the body, as the string, just like we're normally mapping it to JSON data when we get it from a REST API. After our map block, we can now subscribe to our big SQL statement, and we can call our Sqlite Portal. And here we got a few options. So we got export 2 times to export something, and 2 imports and a wipe. So we could either import a JSON structure, or we could simply execute a set of SQL statements. And in our case, we will pick import SQL to DB. We need 2 parameters. So the first is our database, and the second is the SQL string, which is exactly what we just got from our HTTP request to a resource. Once we are done, again, we're at this state where we can notify our subscribers that they can use the database. And also now we can make sure that we set our, our variable database filled to true. So we're not executing this dump again. Of course, we could make sure that the dump is safe and will not overwrite anything, but I did it like this. So if you want, you can also add a catch block, but of course there won't be any errors for us. Okay, so now our database will be opened once it's ready. We will check if we have already inserted data, and otherwise fill our database with some data using the Sqlite Portal and our prepared SQL dump to the database. In both cases, our subscribers will be notified once the database is ready. And now we just need 2 more functions here, because we actually also want to perform some SQL queries on our open database. So to add a developer, we create a new function, and then we also got get all developers, which will return all of our current developers. So I think add developer is a bit simpler. So we create a new data object with name, skill, and year. And now we can return this database, and there it is, execute SQL. So we are now able to perform any SQL statement on our database. So we type insert into developer, which is our database. These are the columns we want to enter. And then we got values, which are defined behind the statement as the params. Let's check. Okay. Or we can also name address, whatever. And then we can return the rest. Perhaps somebody wants it. Could also catch it with an error block, but we leave it out for now. So simply run any SQL statement on your database whenever you want. Of course, you could also add some select statements or union, whatever. I'm not the SQL pro, but I guess you are if you're watching this video. But now back to the last one, get all developers, and this will return again this.database execute SQL, and now we call select star from developer. So this means we will get all developer data inside the database, and now we need to map this data a bit so we can use it better inside our view. So if data.rows.length, so if we get some rows back actually, we will iterate through them. So equals 0 data.rows.length and plus plus. So in that case, we will push a new object to our developers array. At this point, you could use some interface or whatever data structure. I will keep it very simple and just create this item. So data rows item at position i.name, and now we need this 2 more times for skill. And what is the last field again? Okay, yes, years of oh, come on, there it was. Yes. Okay, hopefully no typos, because debugging this is a bit harder as we will run it on a device, but I think we're fine. After we're finished, simply return our developers array. Okay, and then otherwise, perhaps here we could need an error block, and which could return then an empty array if there's some problem. And of course, we could also log out the error. Okay, a lot of code, and we haven't actually changed anything inside our app. But now we got this cute little database provider which helps us to open, fill a database, to get all data from the database, and also to add some data to our database. So now it's time to put this interaction. So if we start with the home HTML view, inside this view we want to add a few items because we need fields to import the data for our developers. So we add a label. What is your name? And then we got an Ion input, which will be connected with an ng model inside our class. So this will be developer.name. Go ahead. And now we need 2 more of these. So the second one should be what is your special skill? And this is developer.skill. And finally, how long have you been working? And this is years of experience. Come on. Okay, finally a button to submit the fun. Full looks good here, and this will call add developer. But of course, the main action takes place inside the database provider in the end. So this is our little form, and below we craft an Ion list where we'll display the Ion items, which will come hopefully from our database. So let developers. Actually, it's not async, so we don't need the async pipe. We will, of course, this call is async, but in the end, we will just set our data to it, and that's it. So then we got dev.name, and below we got dev.years of experience, years of dev.skill experience. Okay, so that's all for our view. As said before, yeah, of course we cannot read that property because we haven't created it yet. So let's finish with our class. We got the developers array, and we got the developer, which is just an object. And then we got our private database provider of the type database provider. And now we see our behavior subject and action because we call get database state, which is an observable. So we can subscribe and we will get back true or false. And of course, only if we are true, we can call load developer data from the backend, from the database. Oh, come on, like this. Okay, because otherwise we would perhaps wait for the platform ready event here, but this platform ready event would not mean that our database is created or pre-filled. So at this point, once this is ready, we can be sure that our batch import is run or the database is ready, but in any way we can make a request that will actually get us data back. So at this point we can call get all developer data, and we are sure that now we will actually get something useful back. So now we can set our developers to this data. And finally we got add developer, and again we simply use the database provider. All of the logic is there. Our view just takes care of the connection between this stuff. So we got name, we got skill, and we finally got my favorite string, years of experience. Okay, this time it's right. And then we got some data back, but actually we're not really using this, but we can set or we can call now again load developer data, because this is not a real-time update database like Firebase. This is just SQL, and we need to execute this, of course, again. I'm not sure if the app is actually still running, or yeah, Cordova not available, of course, but if we comment this out, it's perhaps running, so we haven't made any errors. That would be a good sign for us. Let's see. Of course. Who's loading this? Come on. Don't load anything here. And now you need to add the iOS or Android platform. Okay, so this is good. And once we call this cannot read property SQL of undefined, of course makes sense because we don't have Cordova inside our browser. So now you would need to go ahead with Ionic Cordova platform at iOS or Android, and then Ionic Cordova build iOS or Android. And let's see this app on a device now. Okay, so before launching, actually make sure two more fixes. So we need to add parse int here because our years of experience is a string and the database expects a number. So make sure this is a number. And also I got a little typo in here, so I missed this closing bracket. So now we can observe our data on the device. So we got 3 entries, which is our pre-populated data. And now we add something else. So Josh with the Ionic skill, also, I don't know, 4 years. And if we add the developer info, you see that Josh is directly added to the bottom of our list with all his entries. And of course, you could now go ahead and implement some delete data and some filtering to only select developers with some specific skills or years or whatever. But basically, this database provider now is enough to go ahead with your pre-filled database for some more SQL queries. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more Ionic videos in the next time. There are already quite a few, but there will come more. And of course, go ahead to the ionicacademy.com, which is my online platform to learn Ionic together with you, with courses, projects, videos, and a great community we got there. So make sure to check it out. And I will see you next time. Have a great day and goodbye.